Karlach is a wonderful character, a warrior of righteous anger setting out to try to make the world better before she bothers worrying about her own really serious problems. In this video, I'm just going to show you quick the build I used for her when I did my origin run with her. I'll talk a little bit about the kind of items you can go out and find, but principally, I want to talk about just how I build Karlach from level 1 to level 12. I might actually show you two different builds. The first one I do that works in the early game, and the one I often convert it to in the end game for Karlach. The other build I do is a little bit less satisfying because it switches her away from Barbarian, which I think is so perfect for her. So we're going to start with the one that fits more with her original class. It's got a Barbarian backbone for the class. So we're starting Barbarian. That gives us Rage and Unarmored Defense. For our skills, we do want a 17 in Con, but we're willing to give up some Wisdom to get a 17 in Strength. We're willing to give up some Wisdom to get a 16 in Constitution. We would love a 14 Dexterity, but yeah, and so we're going to go 17, 14, 16, 8, 10, 8. Those mental scores are not good. And if this would, I would not use this build on a solo run, partially for this reason. This is a big hole in the saving throws. Skills, pick your favorite, as Colby at D4 says, PYF. This is really close to his Berserker Raging Thrower Honor Mode build. So you should watch his video as well. Yeah, we'll leave it in Perception and Intimidation, that's fine. So right now we are a level 1 Barbarian. We have 15 hit points, and you're gonna play like a Barbarian. You run up and hit things, and stick with that. Level 2, we're gonna be sticking with Barbarian. We're actually gonna be sticking with Barbarian for a bit here. Now we get Danger Sense, whatever, Reckless Attack, which is actually really important. Because it's not super important for this build, but it's the most important Barbarian feature for other builds that rely on Barbarian. Level 3, we are going Berserker. That's really important. We want to be a Berserker Barbarian. Because it lets us throw things, and we're going to be throwing a lot of things. As soon as you can get to the Goblin Camp, the vendor there sells a returning pike. That's the best early throwing item you can get, and I recommend it. Don't use your thrower to start combat, and try not to end their turn until you hear the little whoosh sound that tells you that it came back to your hand. They've gotten better at it, especially since patch 5 and patch 6 made it meaningfully better. But throwing items that have the return property still have a habit of not always returning. So you have to be a little bit careful on that. But this build is going to be built around this throwing thing, because once you're frenzied, you can do that with your bonus action. And unlike the Frenzied Strike, it doesn't add a stack of Frenzied Strain. Frenzied Strain being the feature that makes it so Barbarians are less likely to hit the more they do these Frenzied Strikes. That's not true if you do the Enraged Throw. Level 4, we take the feat that breaks the game. And a ton of people have done really great videos on this feat, so I'm not going to get super into it right now. But we want to take the Tavern Brawler feat, which somehow is a half feat, meaning you get to bump one of your ability scores, and breaks Bounded Accuracy, which is like the entire design philosophy for 5e, and adds extra damage on every single hit. The most powerful feat in this entire game is Tavern Brawler. So take that, and now when you throw, you get to add your strength twice to your hit, twice to your damage, and like I said, your strength is now higher than it otherwise would be. Level 5, we are still a Barbarian, but that is going to change soon. You get extra attack. This is what we really wanted at this level, is the extra attack. So now on our initial round, we Rage, we do our 2 throws, it coming back to our hand each time. On our second round, we get our 2 attack throws, and then we get our bonus action throw. That's 3 attacks, all very likely to hit because you broke Bounded Accuracy. Level 6, things get interesting, and we're leaving Barbarian behind for quite some time. And instead, we're going to go Rogue. Yep. So you get the sleight of hands expertise, which is great if you need someone to pick locks still, though our dexterity isn't incredible. And we're now going to stick with Rogue until level 8. We get our cunning action, which is helpful, but mostly we want to be using our bonus action to either rage or throw things. Level 3, we pick the most broken rogue subclass in the game, Thief. And why is Thief broken? Well, it's not because it gives us resistance to falling damage, I'll tell you that much. It's because it gives us an additional bonus action every single round. So now you are doing your raging, you're doing your 2 throws, and you're doing an extra bonus action throw in the first round, that's 3. Second round, you throw it 4 times, you're up to a total of 7, and it just keeps going like that. This is one of the best damage per round and survivability builds you can do, because you're doing this all at a distance. And even if they get in close, you're still a barbarian. You can still swing that pike or whatever and do damage to the people when they get in close. And because of your rage, you can still soak up a lot of damage, and you still have a 16 con, so you still have a lot of hit points behind it. And so this works really well to be like your DPR character in your party. DPR being damage per round, sorry. So we're gonna ditch Rogue for a second, because we want to just kind of make this a little bit higher burst damage. And so the best thing we can do is get Action Surge. So in that first round, we get an extra action, can do 2 more throws, are that much more likely to take someone out, right? I don't think this is necessary for the build, especially depending on your party composition. I think you could take a lot of directions. You can do some more barbarian levels. You could, I don't want to say add paladin levels, but you could take like a couple paladin levels and do some smites if someone gets up in melee with you. But what we're going to do is we're going to take fighting style. We're going to go with, I actually haven't tested if great weapon fighting works on a thrown 2-handed melee weapon. Interesting. Anyways, I always go with defense, just up your survivability a little bit. You could also respec at this point and put your fighter 1 as your first level if you prefer like the saving throw proficiencies you get from that. I didn't find that it mattered on a build for a character like this, but I understand why other people would want to do that, especially if you're going to be throwing on anything that might sometimes be concentrating on a spell. But I want this character raging every round, so they can't concentrate. They don't need a constitution saving throw proficiency. So I think this is fine. Action Surge here at level 2 for fighter. That's great. That's exactly what we wanted. Now we get to throw out even more of those throws. This is the core of the build already. Before 5 barbarian, 3 rogue, 2 fighter. Those 10 levels get you an incredible character. And the last 2, you've got a bit of flexibility. The game's telling me I should take another level in fighter. And sure, there's reasons to do that. Battle Master would give you a couple of passive maneuvers you can do when people get in close, add a little bit of extra damage on some of those attacks. With the Tavern Brawler, though, you're already doing a pretty great amount of damage per hit. And unlike Great Weapon Master or Sharpshooter, you're landing most of your hits. You can do Champion again, get a few more crits, spike that damage a little bit. You could do Eldritch Knight. They've got an ability where they can bind their weapon, and then when they throw it, it automatically returns. There's possibly some better thrown weapons you could get without the honing property. Like if you miss your opportunity to get the Dwarven Thrower or something like that. But like, I don't do that. What I do is I don't take this level in fighter. I take it in rogue initially. Because I want to, and again, you've got a bit of flexibility here. If this character is kind of acting as your tank, maybe you want tough or something just to fill that out. If you've got like the Gloves of Hill Giant Strength or a lot of Elixirs of Cloud Giant Strength or something like that, you obviously don't want to do what I'm about to do. What I'm about to do is put 2 more points in strength. Everyone that hits them, that's an extra 2 points of damage on the throw. It's an extra +2 every time we attempt to hit someone with the throw, which makes it even more likely they land. So I think that makes sense. Again, if you've got enough elixirs, if you've got items, then it's probably worth dumping the strength and bumping your constitution. Also, I didn't talk about it much, but armor here. You can wear medium armor as a barbarian, and so that's probably going to be your best choice. That's also why I wanted the +2 in dexterity, because most medium armor in the game, you are limited to a +2 bonus from dexterity. If you've started finding like the Wanti armor or the or some of the other exotic material medium armors, maybe you want to put those points in dexterity and get a little bit of an AC boost. I don't think that's going to be an issue, and I would generally favor dumping those points into either strength or constitution. And so we dipped into rogue just because it was ready with that ASI right there at level 11. And finally, to cap it out at level 12, you've got a few things you can do. You can stay here and get uncanny dodge, help your survivability a little bit. You can do the fighter things we already talked about. I generally round it out with one last level in barbarian. Having one extra rage is nice, and making it so you can't be charmed or frightened helps with, it can help with some of the end game fights. Karlach, unlike basically every other character I've played through so far, you can get from level 1 to level 12 without ever respecking like I just did. And I do appreciate that for this character. We kept a barbarian backbone. There's more levels of barbarian than any other class in here, which fits appropriately for her. I can't really imagine Karlach is a thief. So like, when I'm picking these classes, I'm picking them for build reasons, but like, there's a little bit of other things in there as too that I want to consider. I mentioned that the Tavern Brawler feat is broken for thrown items. And it is. And I mentioned there's another Karlach build I sometimes do. When I start monk and abilities, we are going to mostly be keeping those stats very close to where we were at on that other one. 17, 14, 16, 8, 10, 8 is actually the same. And you can keep this as barbarian for the first few levels if you want that extra survivability. But again, conceptually, I like builds that don't require a lot of respecking. So we're going to start monk here. Colby over at D4 has a couple builds that are kind of like this as well. Again, we're going to be taking advantage of that extra bonus action that we get from the rogue. But instead of using it to throw, we'll be using it to like toss out flurry of blows and things like that. Level 2. Level 3. We get our monk subclass. We do not want the worst one, Way of the Four Elements. We want the best one, Way of the Open Hand. Level 4, we are again taking the most broken feat in the game. And again, bumping our strength to 18. Monk level 5, we get our extra attack, which is great. Then at level 6, we're taking rogue levels again. And again, this conceptually is a very similar build. Both of these are just two different ways to take advantage of the fact that Tavern Brawler is so broken. One on the thrown aspect, one on the punching aspect. Because you can get off slightly more punches using this with like flurry of blows until you burn through your key points, this arguably does like slightly more damage, which is why I often, like when we loaded into the save, my level 12 Karlach was this build. But most of the time when I wasn't on a Karlach origin, Karlach was just in my party, I keep them as the thrower just because it's such a great damage per round build. Okay, so we got our thief subclass. There's a couple different things arguably to do here. You can dip in for the feat. I would not. You can go level 6 monk is a big level, and I would say it's arguably worth taking before we try to like maximize our damage output. And I'm gonna go even a step further and say I don't think it's worth taking fighter levels for action surge here. What I'm instead going to do is take more and more monk levels to get more and more key points so that I can keep up more rounds of using my bonus action to flurry of blows. Plus, level 6 here gives us, makes our attacks magical for the purpose of overcoming resistance, and lets our attacks, every single one of our attacks, do extra damage. So we need level 6 here. You can dip back to rogue whenever you want to get the feat if you really feel you need it. But I would probably then go level 7, evasion, stillness of mind, and another key point. Again, we just want those key points. Feat. Here we go. Max out our strength. Now level 8 monk, level 3 rogue. Last level, you've got a couple of options. And again, magic items are going to change this build and let you distribute more of these things so far. When you're not wearing armor, which most of the time I think this character would be wearing armor, you get some extra jump speed, and you can do the key resonating punch by burning some... Yeah, so this one's really up to you. Do you want to make your punches slightly better, get this extra kind of resonating punch feature, which, like, again, takes a couple rounds to set up and doesn't generally fit with my build conceptions. I often think after 8 levels in Monk, I have enough ki for the length of most of the battles, and I would generally dip over here, take a last ability improvement, and again, this is going to depend on what items you have and stuff like that, but round out Constitution. Ideally, you've got, like, the Amulet of Constitution on, right? So you've dumped your Constitution, and, like, you start bringing up your Wisdom to be doing extra damage on your attacks, and there's a bunch of items that add that. But for now, just assuming no items in this build, I would probably add Constitution. Level 8 Monk, level 4 Rogue. A little bit of a less satisfying, like, Karlach build because it doesn't stick with her core class. But I think conceptually, Karlach as this, like, angry person who's trying to channel and controls it, who comes up and just pummels you with these, like, powerful fists, still mostly conceptually works. You lose out on... And there are some pretty good monk items that they've put in here to help bulk them up. But I think that just about covers how I build Karlach. I either do her as kind of this raging berserker thrower who uses that extra bonus action to get an extra throw in, or I do it as this monk where you're using that extra bonus action to do extra flurries of blows here, right? And do all that kind of thing. I don't think either one is, like, right or wrong. It's just two fun ways, in my opinion, to build this character, who's one of my favorite characters. What do you all think? Do you have any ways you prefer to build Karlach? Anything you think works better or you thought was weak or could be improved in these builds? I would love to hear it. In the meantime, thank you for joining me.